just in case, I've got the PDF file in case of some of the files in here don't work. Just trying to test the technology. Basically, I've got a presentation which is about 400 megabytes running through the iPad. To iPadise or iPedise, a little bit this is a tale of the way I use personally iPads, but also I've been teaching my students to use it. Yeah? So the difference between iPad and iPedise is a little bit what we, Lauren and Simeon, have been talking about. Basically, what we are going to talk about, what I'm going to talk about is that to me, to tell the truth, iPad is just one more tool. So we need to talk about iTechnology and iPedagogy instead of iPads. However, we have the strategy of iPads all around. If you look at the planet in the United States, it is said that 1.5 million students in high school in the United States are using iPads. And people say, oh, that's a lot. But if you take into account that there are like 51 million high school students in the United States, you can see that you need to start thinking in a different way when you do things. It's not necessarily beyond technology. Units that I'm going to give you examples about are Design Studio 4 and Design Management 3, two dense, one practical unit and the other one theoretical unit. Third-year students, each unit is about 40 to 50 students, and basically there is a combination already in those units concerning blended learning, distance, and face-to-face exchanges. So we have this initiative, 11,000 iPads in 2013. What does it mean for many people? iPad proven. Yeah? But what happens after the iFriendsing? That is a question. Always there is an uncomfortable position concerning to what is called the I knew. What do you do with a new when you have any way of categorizing it or classifying it? So some people, and this is also an important thing, remember that Mr. Murdoch, our beloved journalist, is saying that his empire still can stay in the map through the iPadization. And iPadization is a new term, by the way. If you actually do searching in the internet, there are even people writing about iPadization at the moment. So the question is, institutions are being hit hard. As Simon was saying, we need to look into the digital sphere. But probably we need to be a little bit smarter than what people say, thinking that technology will save us. The issue is not our institution, it's about our evolution. Why? Because information is no longer information. Information is about knowledge, and knowledge is not in one place, it's everywhere. Some theoreticians are talking about that information doesn't belong to any institutional object anymore. It's in the flow and in the strength of the network. That's so bored.
Mauricio, just hang on a second.
We've got a technical problem.
Shall I just stay still?
Sorry, I think we're overloading the system a little bit with all this extra eye stuff.
Yes.
So
Too many
just,
eyes.
sorry. Okay, there you go. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. So the question is that, yes, how to reach the new generation, the digital natives. Importantly, knowledge nowadays is challenged as well because of instead of being deeper into knowledge, our digital natives are going wider but very shallower concerning knowledge. So that is an issue that we need to take into account. The reaction of many people is exactly what this cartoon says. What do we need all these many things in a situation that we didn't need to do them before? And here it is an important word for me, which is an issue of integration that could be more than just having the app. It's also concerning convergence because of, as you know, probably you recognize the guy in there in the cartoon. He's a big kahuna in Microsoft. They came up with Surface. So they are trying to tell that, yes, they finally have got this tablet about 1 or 2 years after the iPads came around. So that is a job for Rocky there. So the dilemma of the I knew. this was a cartoon that I collected a long time ago concerning the boom of computing. And if we can learn anything from history, the computer boom is a very good example about how to digest technology. One, the boundaries are blurry, and the other thing is that the good ideas don't fail because they are good ideas. They actually fail because of planning, management, and implementation. So basically, that is the thing that we need to think about. What is the iPad approach in my personal teaching is transformative learning. Outcomes, active and discovery learning, project-based learning, and basically every time when I teach students, I try to reproduce a design studio agency environment. So even the students need to get to a point of self-marking, for example, and failing themselves if they believe they are not good enough. What was changing in the unit, the interesting thing is that the two units are already doing face-to-face blended learning and independent learning. The good thing about the approach is that it's not about iPads, but it's about the new technology. It needs to be mobile. For the first time, students can take the computer with them and actually take pictures, report, and all that stuff. It needs to be integrated, interconnected, and collaborative. In the case of design, what we are talking about very importantly is that this center is not one about making you as a designer, but it's about homemaking. So even the user may end up rapid prototyping their own category or something like that at some point. So it's teamwork, action learning, and transformation learning. When we talk about how to deal with these 300,000 apps, the big problem is management. How do we decentralize and do efficiency out of so many options? And what you have on the side is one example about one of the units that I ran. That basically last year I converted the semi-structure into what is called the pebble pad trialing that we are doing with medicine and music at the moment, which is basically a user interface through blended learning concerning the portfolios. What we have in there to the right is sketches in iPad, that now the students do the sketch and straighten the iPad, they plug it in, and also they take pictures and notes and so on. You may like to note that the new iPedagogy, or whatever is his name, very difficult to pronounce. The new version of it just came out last week. Basically, we can make this available, I think. The new version 3 came out last week on the 4th of June. And basically all these apps in there are the ones that actually show my students as well. So it's interesting that this design model that goes from substitution to argumentation to modification and redefinition of blended learning and online learning is also merged with the Bloom's taxonomy. So it's a very interesting thing, and the thing is out there. So you will have it in this presentation as well. So an example, what do I do with my stuff? To me, it's an issue of enhancing, not add on and extra things. And perhaps in here we're going to have some issues because these videos are large. But what you have at the top, just to give you an example about enhancing and doing extra things, basically the virtue of having the iPad for me is that I have quite a few things in one go. I've got a second monitor. I can actually work with it as an extended environment, and actually I can use it also as a mouse. The one thing conversation that we had with Kim last week, and I brought these examples for here, is that, for example, at the top you have the typical mouse for CAD, maybe $70 to $130. The one in the middle here is the new super mouse that we just won 2013 Red Dot Award, Design Award, and that is about $350. And the one to the right is the super duper entry-level mouse, which is an haptic mouse for 3D development. It's called a Phantom mouse, and it starts on $2,500, the price range. So we'll see if it works, this one here. I have to be delicate because of I'm going to finish off right. Basically, what you're having here is an iPad that can be used as a three-dimensional space. So, and also you have an iPad and an iPhone that can be used as a navigation space. Basically, what you have in there, also you can use it for reviews. And in the way it is, you can actually work collaboratively at a different level, which is basically use more than one iPad at the same time. So that is a new way. It costs about $15, $20, but gives you a totally different dimension, especially if you are working on 3 dimensions. And the guys that actually are engineering may understand what I'm talking about in the sense that basically using the typical mouse, even the 3-dimensional mouse, is very limited. So in my case, in my current life as a designer, basically I have almost not a complete studio on the go, but yes, I have a lot on the go, so I just put my iPad on one side and I start playing with this thing. Yeah. In there, for example, you have the typical scenario. You work in 3 dimensions, and also you can actually use more than one iPad to work collaboratively within the same environment or through the internet. You can actually interrelate in those cases. I'm not going to show you the last one because the last one is a practical thing concerning using the accelerometer of the iPhone. So basically, you take the iPhone, and because of there is an accelerometer that tells you up, down, whatever, you can actually navigate through the screen just by moving the iPhone and doing that kind of stuff. The other thing that I wanted to show you is ways that I also use the iPad at the moment. The one at the center is basically adding monitors, especially when you are on the go. You need to have a lot of screen. Yeah? So there you have one possibility. Another way that I use it is, for example, they are coming, more things are coming out like Cinco, that it makes the iPad a specific high-end graphics program, and this is a mouse. So for example, the person on the right actually did the sketching of the same idea in a graphics program with layers similar to Photoshop and Painter, and on the go, and then went home or the studio and did this rhinoceros in using a proper high-definition Wacom tablet. Because of the resolution of the iPad at the moment, you can do quite a lot of that stuff on the go. Yeah? The last one is an example about new 3D CAD programs that are coming out. I'm usually testing new stuff. I've got like a lot of apps. Yeah? For $15, you can get one that is called Virtus Studio 3D. That is pretty much like a SketchUp Pro, which is Google SketchUp. But until now, it's very difficult to actually move 3D-dimensional 3D CAD into the iPad. Now, with new iOS programming, basically with this and also format from AutoCAD, you can start doing sketches on 3 dimensions and go to your studio and actually do the full-fledged stuff. And the good thing is about transporting things from formats that are VFX, SWF, and all the typical things that are typical CAD formats, which is good. It's a new thing. The one thing that I wanted to tell you about as well is, you see, I'm overloading the one thing that I wanted to, I'm about to finish it, so don't worry, is how my students are doing it. Basically, design process, very important. Centrally managed tasks is very important. Sometimes we have too many apps. Discovery learning, convergent thinking, collaborative technologies. So these are some examples of what the students have done in the past and the steps they go through, including iPad. From brainstorming in some software that is available free or under charge, On the top right corner, the iPad drawings unfortunately don't show up. In practical stuff, then using YouTube and other social networking and Facebook to actually communicate with me. And in my case, my students say that I don't sleep, so probably sometimes at 1 a.m. I still communicating with them. To the more complex stuff that is also could have started in an iPad, but ends up in real working prototypes like that out here. Just to give you some examples concerning what kind of stuff I have in my own palette in iPad. I've got things like Artrage and Procreate, which are like Photoshop and Painter, but for the iPad, the good thing is that you can layer, which is a technology that is pretty good. You can transfer backwards and forwards, and that's where I use the iPad. Cut Remote, Sync over to Studio, Adobe Ideas, Keynotes, and so on. There are some that are controlled and others are open access. There are some like a remote login like PedalPub, but you can have access to some of those examples. Implementation. Basically what you have in this column is some of the main ways that I communicate with my students. How do they match the approach and outcomes, and what is the level of support on the right hand. How did the students react to it? Positive overall. Many of them, they came especially into the Design Studio 4 trying to do a transaction and saying, well, what do I do in the past? At the end of the class, there were students actually saying, I'm going to come back next year to step back in. So, the last two things, evaluation. There is evaluation that is currently connected to PedalPub, so it's difficult to distinguish from both, but is contributing to that. Out of a trial, we have a very good reception from the industrial design students concerning planning technologies, pretty favorable. Just to the last screen, iPad apps according to Union. I thought you may like to actually download some of them if they exist. Yeah. So that is the whole thing. And if you feel capable to do it, now it's up to you. Yeah. So that's it. That's my presentation.